All right. Welcome to another Higher Bloom AMA. I'm Eric Ingebretson, co-founder here at Higher Bloom, and this week we are joined by Bryant Blair, CFO at Cambridge Air. Bryant, welcome.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. We've also got Rachel Cotta moderating here on the screen. She'll be monitoring the chat and making sure logistics we go off without a hitch. But again, Bryant, thanks so much for calling in and for joining with us. Bryant is a Higher Bloom customer, as mentioned, CFO at Cambridge Air. And so we're excited to chat today and have a productive conversation. Maybe to get started, Bryant, tell us more about your background, tell us about your expertise, and a little bit of your journey towards Cambridge Air and where you've been in the space.
Yeah, I have over a decade in manufacturing, almost exclusively in the HVAC industry. Um, Excited to be the CFO at Cambridge Air Solutions for the past 3 years now, serving customers in the industrial heating, cooling, and ventilation space. Um, and just really excited to be here. I got a wife and two kids who love me and give me a
Heck
hug
yeah.
every time I come home. So life is good. I'm not sure life
Life is
gets better
good.
than this.
That
Yeah.
is exactly right. Hey, well, we're grateful to have a little bit of your precious time, and I almost want to say like, yeah, Brian's a friend because in the interactions we've had over the past whatever 6+ months of working together, it's been so great getting to know you and some of the team, and again, all the interactions have been fun and cordial, and so man, we're big fans of Brian and appreciate you again spending some time just in this conversation today. The
Yeah,
goal is to just
likewise,
talk.
likewise.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The goal is just to talk through some topics that hopefully will be relevant for folks in the industry and things that people are thinking about and can get a new perspective that we're excited to learn from you. So maybe talk to us first, Brian, about some of the learnings or focuses this year for Cambridge Air that may be relevant, applicable for folks that are watching this, regardless of their background, regardless of their industry. That are some of the things that are top of mind for you guys that may be insightful for others.
Yeah. Well, one of our biggest focuses, and always has been one of our biggest focuses, is on serving our customers. So we have a relentless focus on serving customers. We have a value proposition that we call easiest to do business with. So we strive to be the easiest company to do business with in the space. And that's been a challenge over our last few busy seasons because we've been inundated with during our busy season, which is typically the winter months for heating needs. We've been
Mhm.
inundated with phone calls and inbound emails from customer service requests that we've been struggling to keep up with. So, which is how we connected with Higher Bloom. So they've helped us solve that problem. But that's over the next 12 months, that's our biggest focus is a relentless focus on serving our customers and making sure they get the quality and speed and responses for tech service requests, parts requests, other inbound requests.
Heck yeah. Makes total sense. And again, I think regardless of the industry you're in, subvertical, whatever it may be, something people can relate to. I actually, Bryant, want to
Yeah.
hear more about
Oh,
the busy season and some of that. Yeah, just learning more about that because I think that's something people can relate to. Um, on that kind of busy season note, talk to me about the kind of mindset you guys had. Were there other alternative, solutions you guys, thought through or things you did or tried to keep up with that demand? Give us just more context into that, experience and journey.
yeah. So at a high level, I'm a manufacturing guy. So I operate my whole life and management philosophy by theory of constraints. So what is the one or two things that keeps us from growing and getting to the next level? And for the past few busy seasons, it's been being able to respond to all our current customers and keep them as raving fans and returning customers, et cetera. And so when we had a backlog, for example, this past year of over 2,000 customer service cases that we could not get to within our SLA with timely enough. And so we looked at like, hey, there's a huge variable demand, right? Because we spike in the winter and then it's a little calmer in the summer. And so augmenting our staff locally was challenging and expensive. I'm also a penny pinching CFO, so
Of course.
that was not always at the top of my list to like triple the size of our St. Louis-based, Missouri-based team to handle all those inbound calls. We looked at doing a traditional BPO. We also looked at AI tools to solve our problem and other technology tools that we wanted to be part of the solution. But ultimately, we decided to augment our staff with higher bloom for a lot of reasons. It was lower cost. There weren't setup fees. Um, the setup speed was much faster. Like when we got in our busy season, like we couldn't wait 6 months
Right.
to hire a BPO or to do aggressive job postings on Indeed and ZipRecruiter and other job boards, and then go through lengthy interview processes and hire 13 to 13 plus people and get them all up and running. And busy season's over by then, right?
Yep.
So hiring locally was a challenge once we were in the midst of it. Hiring internationally through a traditional BPO was in the midst of it, or was out of the question. So higher bloom was really nice because we got the opportunity to spin up quickly. I think we were up in under 2 weeks, and then another week or so of training, and the team of 13 was off and running. And we were able to clear that backlog in under 2 weeks from our 2,000 plus down to zero and start answering phone calls live and getting the level of customer service to where we wanted it to, which I think is just remarkable. I haven't seen anything like it before.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that. And again, unpacking that experience. I wanna double click into a few of the areas that you mentioned. So there's some challenges with local hiring. You mentioned just for the busy season where you were at, if I understand correctly, again, it's a time thing, it's an effort thing. Talk to us through like,
Well, and it's increasing my fixed costs, right?
yeah,
So like when I if I hire five more people, the way Cambridge views it, our whole mission is to enrich lives. And so we don't like to hire people seasonally.
sure,
That's not our thing. When
sure,
when we in, when we hire somebody, we're implicitly making a contract with that family, that employee and that employee's
yeah.
family, that we're going to work together to that employee is going to work together to improve Cambridge, and we're going to invest in that person to improve that person's career. And so we don't take those decisions lightly. And so adding our fixed costs and hiring 13 people locally when we don't have work for them to do for 6 months of the year just really isn't an option financially, or the value is consistent with our
Yep.
company. And
So there's the
so, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say there's the financial side of that. There's the values. What about the lift? You mentioned that earlier, of like the lengthy, process it would take. What would that have looked like in practice, in reality, in practice, to hire, 13 plus people locally, if it did meet all the other,
Yeah.
the other requirements.
Man, finding good talent's hard. It's just hard. Finding people that fit our culture and are going to add to our culture is hard. Finding people who are going to consistently serve customers the way we strive to serve them is hard. And you know this because you're a growing company and you hire people all the time. Like hiring
Yep.
good talent is just a challenge. Uh, I mean, that would have taken months to get 13 plus people. Uh,
Yep.
you know, getting the job posted, weeding through a bunch of interviews, bringing people on site, getting schedules to align to, show them around, and then onboarding them and giving them training. All that would have taken, end to end, probably 6 months to hire those 13 people.
So there's kind of one path you guys considered. Now talk to us about the second. You said, BPO was in the mix. For those that aren't familiar, that's business process outsourcing companies. These are the kind of traditional India, Philippines based folks that have, done the overseas hiring, what you think of, that's been around for decades now. Talk to
Yeah.
us about kind of the, you know, from what I understand, you've worked with those companies at previous jobs of yours. So talk to us about kind of your mindset of, considering that, what you know from your previous experience, and how that was in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think BPOs are a great solution. They're a great tool for certain circumstances.
Yep.
The challenge that I have with them generally, both at Cambridge and prior, is you get um, generally there's a large fixed setup cost fee. It's harder to be variable and have your staff go up and down. You don't get to pick your own team, so you get to pick your own company that you work with, sure, but then their staff is what their staff is, and they're going to hire and expand and contract based on the contracts and the customers they have. And then when there's issues, you have a point of contact there, but you're really dealing with like the frontline employees manager or manager's manager, and so giving coaching and training like goes through this whole chain of command that's harder. Um, And so there's the setup cost thing. The setup speed is because of all that and the multiple layers is just going to go slower. And then you don't get to train them yourself, generally, has been my experience. And you don't get to pick your own staff. And so for us, culture being super important, and we and our customers have come to expect a really, really high level of quality and service. We didn't want customers calling in and it not feeling like Cambridge, both from a values and a knowledge perspective. And so we really wanted to pick our own team, and Hire Bloom gave us the ability to do that. So we got to pick really, really great talent that feel just like any other Cambridge employee. And we got to pick culture fits. So they feel like any other Cambridge employee to our customers. We got to set it up in a few weeks, and we got the ability to scale up and down at a much lower cost and with no fixed setup cost. Like it really checked all our boxes for a growing company like Cambridge. And the other thing I'll add that is super important for us is culture. We're a culture first company. Um, when you hire somebody for your company, culture is always a lens that you look through. Why, when you're augmenting your staff internationally, would you not use that same lens? Your customers have come to
Right.
expect a certain culture, a certain way that your company interacts with them. And so why wouldn't you also screen for that internationally if you're augmenting your staff internationally? And that's what Hire Bloom allowed us to do that traditional solutions couldn't, is screen for that culture and find people that felt like us for our customers, which has been great.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool to hear again, even more of the details that, obviously you and I have interacted, but I didn't get all of this in some of those. And you mentioned, some of your experience with the industry, and kind of how we compare to where we, some of the benefits that came in. And again, we are this different solution, which is why, we've been growing, we've been bringing on more customers just like you guys and others. But maybe talk to someone that hasn't had experience, hiring overseas before, in their previous experiences. What may their kind of mindset be? What advice or, recommendation would you have for them as they're going down this same path of knowing, hey, we need to fill these seats, we need to, service our customers, we're considering options. What specific, thoughts would you share with someone that hasn't hired overseas before and again may have some opinions about it? But what would you share with that group?
Yeah, I'd say there's always like mathematically, there's always one thing in your business that's keeping you from getting to the next level. And it's usually related to delivering service and value to your customers. And so for us for us, it was our inbound call center for a long time, our ability to service those customers. And what's nice about hiring internationally is you can experiment with this in such a low cost way. Like you go the traditional BPO route, you're in for 100,000 before you figure out if this is a good solution. You go the AI route and full tool automation route, you're maybe in for around the same before you figure out if it's a good solution. With Hire Bloom, I get a team of folks that's highly skilled, feels like us, and I'm doing it for, depending on the rates, a fraction of the cost that I could hire in St. Louis, Missouri. Um, so I'm all about low risk experimentation. Like, don't go through a one-way door and lock yourself into something. Go through a two-way door, and then if it's not working, you can dial it back or scale it up really easily. So I think that would be my advice is whether it's Hire Bloom or something else, if you're going to hire internationally, it's a culture change for your company. It
Yep.
might be a remote work change for your company, might uh, change, like you got to make sure your processes are really well documented. There's some things that might change. Step your toe into the water. Don't dive in for a $500,000 investment with no undo button.
Yeah, that's great. And through that process, right, you're describing of dipping your toes in the water, right? Like your team got to interview the people, they got to meet them
Right.
firsthand.
Right.
Talk to us about the experience of some of your, Cambridge employees based in St. Louis that maybe had never, worked with folks outside the US before. When they interviewed, when they met some of the team, now having worked with them, not even your experience, but what you've heard from your again, your US based employees, your managers underneath you, things of that nature on the team. Talk to us about what you've heard from them and their experience and exposure to this pilot, this trying it out that you're describing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a great experience. So it's been for a lot of our customer service agents. It was a great leadership opportunity for them to interview and hire people and then train those people, be part of the interviewing and hiring process, and then be part of that training process. Um, and I've heard nothing but good things from the Hire Bloom staff. So or
Cool.
from the Hire Bloom contractors that we have part of the now
Yeah.
Cambridge staff. So
Yeah, it's great. It's perfect. One of the other thing you mentioned now a couple times that it's on everyone's mind is AI. In the call center, in the customer service, engaging with customer space. Obviously, it's an option on the table for everyone. Talk to us about like your perspective, your experience, learnings of using AI to solve some of the customer service call center problems, or again, load of customer engagements, tickets, etc.
yeah, so I think at a high level, it's right for someone in my seat to be super curious and interested in AI, but not obsessed. So I play with AI all the time, both professionally and personally. I use it to solve a lot of my problems. I think it's better for someone in my seat to be interested in aggressively improving your data quality and system infrastructure. When it comes to the customer service part of using AI, I think it's kind of the same principle. So um, we could figure out a way, and we're experimenting. We could figure out a way to deploy AI
Mhm.
to serve our customers. Um, but we want to make sure we're optimizing the right thing. And I think this is important for home service companies too. Like, how many customers call in and at what frequency do they call in? When you have an opportunity to get a customer on the phone, you want that to be a surprisingly delightful experience for the customer because you don't get that opportunity very often to interact with the customer live. And so that's what we're trying to optimize is those raving fans, turning our customers into raving fans. And so we take those opportunities very seriously to talk with them on the phone. What we didn't want to just optimize, even though we were 2,000 cases behind, we didn't want to optimize just closing tickets. And I think if we deploy AI, it would be wonderfully effective at closing tickets, but it might not be as effective at turning those customers into raving fans. And so the way I think about it is our human to human connection we have with our customers is the right place for where we're at right now because our humans know, hey, I got to spend an extra 5 minutes on the phone call with this person. I got to hear this person out on this one thing. I got to offer free shipping here, even though it's a little bit, not exactly written in the SOP for whatever the case may be. Like we still need a Cambridge human judgment, and our customers still expect human to human interaction. And so that's the route we're going down. We're instead trying to think through how can I use AI to assist and augment the capabilities of our human operators, not have AI replace the human operators. That's just not the path we're down. We don't want to optimize on closing tickets because you can imagine if we were just trying to close tickets, we could optimize that really quickly. But the trade-off might be losing the surprise and delight that we want to do, that service we want to give to our customers.
That's super insightful. And I love that, again, raving fan, like going above and beyond on that front. And that makes me think of probably our last question here. I'm looking at the time a touch, but I think that that mentality of I've heard this before from operators in the space of like we only have so many touch points with the customer.
That's right.
When they call
That's
in,
right.
when they engage,
Don't
you,
waste them.
yeah, don't
Don't
waste
waste
them.
it. Treat those touch points, good and bad, as the gold they are.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And so I've heard that consistently. Most of our customers are in the home service space. You have served, you've worked with home service customers as well,
right.
in past experiences. Talk to me about what you've learned, about the home service space, having worked with those companies, some of the industry trends you saw, some of the maybe the challenge you saw, what you learned of working deeply in that space, yeah, in the home services sector.
Well, I think the home services sector, just like me being an OEM, the most important thing is your relationship with your customers. Home services probably have 10x the number of customers that I have in terms of count, right? For a similar size company. Um, but it's even more important for them to make sure that every single one of those touch points is super treated super valuably because it is. And you might not have all those you might not have the frequency of touch points that I have with my customer to recover a bad interaction. And
Right.
so you really got to make sure that with those low frequency touch points, but high volume of customers, that you do a really nice job with all those touch points. And so
100%
making
agree.
sure you hire people that are culturally aligned, that are trained on your systems, that are knowledgeable with your processes and products, so and feel like an extension of you. That's the best advice I can give for augmenting your staff, whether domestic or international. Like you got to check all those boxes.
Totally agreed. In our pre-call, Bryant, you mentioned in the conversation something around, the effect of many home service companies that you've seen are understaffed. They're people are wearing multiple hats. They have to be more efficient. And if this doesn't come back to your recollection, but I think you spoke towards, that's fine. But I think you spoke towards something around some of the efficiencies that they gain and some of the again, like the multiple hats that they may be wearing and kind of how that relates to the way your brain works as a manufacturing guy. Does that come back some of what you shared on
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the theory of constraints, right?
Yeah.
Like a
Yes.
constrained resource that exists in home service companies across the country is management attention. And in your managers, you and your managers, if you're an operator in a home service company, you're probably wearing like 14 different hats. And so if you can eliminate headaches and management attention, you're mathematically freeing up management attention where you can focus on value creation for your customers. And so, like, if you have a low cost, low risk way to experiment on losing a headache and gaining some management attention, like, take those experiments all day, every day. And if they pay off, great. And if they don't pay off, you didn't lose anything.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, Brian, like I said, I know the topics that we covered here are top of mind. We're talking to home service companies and others in the space literally every single day, and I know these are things that they're thinking about. And your insights have been again really helpful and insightful. And so, like I said, Brian's more than a customer now; he's a friend. It's someone that we've enjoyed every interaction that we've had with you, and appreciate the partnership. Appreciate the again all the insights you shared with us. So thanks so much for giving us
Yeah, and I'm
some.
happy to connect with any anybody who's listening who wants more information or wants to talk to our team and our managers directly that have used Hire Bloom services. And I guess the only last thing I'll say, Eric, if it's all right, is it's been a
Yep.
pleasure working with you guys, especially that we are our company's mission and culture is so
Yes.
aligned and overlapped that it's been a pleasure working with you guys. So we have a phrase in Cambridge, enriching lives. We strive to enrich the quality of every life we touch. And I think your mission is to open doors and make an impact, which is so overlapped in treating people the right
Yep.
way, giving people opportunities, and leaving things better than you found it. So thank you. You've been a great partner.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.